There are things German Shepherd owners discover about this breed that nobody prepares them for. The loyalty. Yes, everyone talks about the loyalty, the intelligence, the protectiveness, the bond that forms so completely it reorganizes your daily life around a dog without you ever consciously deciding to let that happen. But grief. Nobody mentioned grief. Nobody told me that a German Shepherd could grieve in a way that is visible, measurable. That sits in the room with you like a third presence. That changes the quality of the silence in your house in a way you feel before you understand it. Nobody warned me, until mine did it right in front of me. And what I am about to tell you, it is not a story about loss exactly. It is a story about what this breed is actually capable of feeling. And once you understand it, you will never look at your German Shepherd the way you did before you pressed play. Most people who own German Shepherds understand, at least intellectually, that this is an emotionally sophisticated animal. The research on canine emotion has expanded significantly over the past 2 decades, and German Shepherds consistently appear at the forefront of studies on attachment, empathy, and social cognition. But there is a gap between understanding something intellectually and watching it happen in front of you in your own living room. That gap, when it closes fast. My German Shepherd's name is Atlas. He had a companion for the first 4 years of his life, an older dog, a rescue, a mixed breed named Rue, who arrived before Atlas did, and who Atlas, from his very first week in the house, treated with a combination of reverence and complete social dependence that I found both endearing and slightly baffling. Rue was not particularly warm toward him. She tolerated him. She held her space on the couch with the quiet authority of a dog who had been there first and intended to remain first, regardless of what new arrivals thought about that. Atlas followed her anyway, slept near her, checked on her throughout the day in a way that looked, if you watched it long enough, less like casual proximity and more like monitoring. When Rue died, I was prepared for a period of adjustment. I was not prepared for what actually happened. The first morning after she was gone, Atlas went to her bed. He did not lie in it. He stood beside it, nose working, and stayed there for a long time. Long enough that I stopped what I was doing and just watched. He was not distressed in any obvious way. He was not whining or pacing. He was doing something that looked, from the outside, like searching for information. Like he was gathering data about an absence and trying to make it make sense. Over the following week, his behavior changed in ways I had not anticipated and could not explain away as something else. He ate, but without the enthusiasm he normally brought to meals. He came when called, responded to commands, went on walks. But the checking behavior that had defined his relationship with Rue, that constant low-level awareness of where she was in the house, had not disappeared. It had redirected. He began checking on me with the same frequency, the same quiet consistency, the same pattern of appearing in doorways just to confirm location before returning to whatever he had been doing. It was as if the monitoring instinct had simply transferred its object rather than shutting down. This is not as surprising as it might seem, and understanding why requires a brief look at what canine grief actually is at a neurological level. Research published in peer-reviewed behavioral journals has documented measurable physiological changes in dogs following the death of a companion animal in the same household. Cortisol levels, the biological marker of stress, show significant elevation. Appetite disruption, sleep pattern changes, and altered social behavior have all been recorded in controlled observation studies. The changes are consistent enough across subjects that researchers have largely moved away from the earlier position that dogs experience only a behavioral disruption following loss, rather than something that functions more like grief in the emotional sense. What makes German Shepherds particularly significant in this context is the depth and specificity of their attachment bonds. This is a breed that does not attach broadly and loosely. They attach specifically, deeply, and with a consistency that has been shaped by over a century of selective breeding for close working partnership with individual humans and, in many working contexts, with other dogs. The attachment system that makes a German Shepherd an extraordinary working partner is the same system that makes loss when it comes something the dog genuinely has to process rather than simply move past. Atlas did move past it. That is important to say. By the end of the second week, the meals were finishing again. The walks had their momentum back. The monitoring behavior settled into something that felt more like its ordinary version, less urgent, less frequent. But the 2 weeks between were real. They were not performance. They were not projection on my part, a human reading human emotion into animal behavior, because grief was present in the house, and I was looking for company in it. I know the difference because I watched carefully. The behavioral changes were specific, patterned, and consistent with what the research describes. And the moment that made the room go quiet, the moment I keep coming back to, happened on the 4th day. I was sitting on the floor, which I do not usually do, and Atlas came and sat directly in front of me. Not beside me. In front. Facing me. He put his head on my knee and stayed there for a long time without moving. There was no request in it, no expectation of play or food or a walk. He was simply there, in contact, present in a way that felt chosen rather than habitual. And I had the distinct, clear, not at all sentimental sense that this dog understood something about what was happening in the house. Not in abstract terms, in its own terms, in whatever terms a German Shepherd uses to understand that something that was present is now absent, and that the absence has weight. What I want you to take from this is not just a story. It is something practical. If you share your home with a German Shepherd who loses a companion, whether that companion is another animal or a person, the behavioral changes you observe are real, and they deserve a real response. Keep routines as stable as possible during this period. Because routine is one of the primary ways German Shepherds regulate their sense of safety and predictability in the world. Increase genuine one-on-one engagement, not frantic distraction, but calm, present, focused time together. Be patient with appetite changes, sleep disruptions, and altered behavior patterns, understanding that these are not problems to be corrected, but signals to be respected. Do not, if you can help it, immediately replace the companion. The instinct to fill the absence is understandable, but introducing a new animal into a household where a German Shepherd is actively processing a loss can complicate the grief rather than resolve it. Give the dog time to find its new normal before asking it to establish a new relationship. And pay attention. That is the thing I would most want to say to anyone who has a German Shepherd or is thinking about getting one. This breed has an interior life that is richer and more complex than the surface behavior suggests. The monitoring, the checking, the positioning themselves in doorways, the appearing beside you when the house gets quiet. None of these are random. They are a language, one that has been developing over thousands of years of living closely with humans into something that we are only beginning to have the scientific vocabulary to describe accurately. Atlas is asleep right now, about 6 feet from where I'm sitting. He has been asleep for an hour. But twice in that hour, he has lifted his head, confirmed my location, and gone back to sleep. He has been doing that his whole life. I used to find it slightly funny. Now, I find it something else entirely. If this gave you something to think about, share it with someone who has a German Shepherd, because this is the kind of content that tends to land differently when you watch it sitting next to the dog. It is about. Subscribe if you want to keep going deeper into what this breed actually is underneath, everything we assume we already know. And leave a comment if your German Shepherd has ever done something that made you stop and reconsider what is actually happening inside them. I read every one, and with this breed, the stories are never small.